Hello, welcome back to my third video of the series. This one I'm going to entitle What Happened with the Apostles. Um, you got to understand, back in the day, there was no internet and record keeping as such. That was intensified later on in an organized church. But when you were at the Apostles' state, it was just the beginning of the church. And while it took a little while before we actually had churches, physical buildings. They would meet in people's houses, possibly underground, and maybe even in temples, etc. Until the building of the churches. So let's take a look. So this is basically in a chart form. It should be a quick video. This is the apostles, where they died, how they died, the year they died, where they're buried or relics or remains, and then some comments. So let's go to Peter first. Peter died in Rome under Nero. He was crucified upside down because he felt himself unworthy to be crucified the other way as Jesus was. So that's why he chose upside down. Died 64 or 67. There's no confirmation on that. Where the relics. So St. Peter's Basilica in Rome is basically where the relics, remains of St. Peter are, and he's the first pope. So then there's James the Greater. So he died in Jerusalem by the sword. He died about 44. Where is he buried? St. James Church in Compostela, Spain. He's the first martyred of all the apostles. John was the one that died natural death. They think he died at Ephesus. He died about year 100. Where he's buried is a very loose mountain town, some say, and I'm not going to go any further than that, but they're not sure where some of his remains are. He's the only one that is not martyred. Andrew, where he died in Achaia, which is basically Greece. He crucified in the shape of an X. So the X shape is actually called the Cross of St. Andrew. They call it also decussation, or decussant cross. Died about 60, the year 60, and then his remains are at Cathedral of Amalfi in Italy. He's the chief patron of Russia and Scotland. St. Philip died in Turkey. Back then it was Asia Minor, but basically Turkey. And he was crucified about the year 80. And his remains are the Church of Dodici Apostoli in Rome. Matthew is one of the weird. They don't know what happened with Matthew. There's a lot of there's different sources saying different things, but it appears that he died in Armenia, present-day Armenia. This Ethiopia is not the Ethiopia in Africa. It's Ethiopia, which is now Armenia's place area. They think he died of a spear, but his remains are at the Cathedral of Salerno, Italy. I don't know how the remains got there. Some of these things are miraculous when it comes to the remains. James the Less died in Jerusalem. He was stoned to death, year 62. Where I think there's some say initially Constantinople, and then he's at some suggest Holy Apostles Basilica in Rome. I'm inclined to believe the latter, that he's in the Holy Apostles Basilica in Rome. He was 94 years old when he died. He was, I think, one of the oldest when he died. Jude Thaddeus died in Beirut by arrows. He was 60, about the year 65. He's buried in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Simon died in Persia. Sword or a saw. He's sometimes presented in art as having a saw. So that's where that saw idea came from. And that's an interesting, this is a good point I want to make here. Back then, there's not a lot of literacy. So a lot of artwork was kind of the method. The word of mouth and artwork was the method of teaching about Christianity and what happened. Such. So you'll see, again, the saw, when you see pictures of St. Simon. Died about the year 65. He's in the altar of the crucifixion at Vatican. St. Thomas, India. So he died in India. They think, and India was much bigger than it was back then. Now India's kind of, some of it's been Pakistan, some of it's Nepal, and then it was bigger even before that, bigger than that, and it was almost kind of touching the Middle East, if you will. So they think and the most western part of India, as they think, was where Thomas died. He died of spears, the year 72 AD, and his St. Thomas Cathedral in Mylapore, India, is where his remains are. St. Bartholomew is, again, uncertain. They think Armenia. There's some suggest he's crucified, some suggest he was beheaded. So, again, some of this is loose, but that's when you're dealing with no documentation, it's hard. They do that by word of mouth, by tradition, by even artwork. So, 60s or 70s is when he died. St. Bartholomew in the island in Rome is where his remains are. Finally, St. Matthias. Recall that Judas Iscariot died by his own hand, hung from a tree, and Matthias was the one who took his place. So he died in Ethiopia and Armenia, or Jerusalem. They don't really know. Some question whether it's crucified or stoned or beheaded. But they think it rose around the 80 AD, and there's two places where some people have remains in more than one place, and so Rome and Trier, Germany, is where some of his remains are, and he replaced Judas Iscariot. So there's the apostles and how they passed and where they died and what happened to them, and then. Hope you enjoyed this video.